Hi, I'm Matthew Burtness here with Grandma Burtness. I'm the eldest grandson. I am a first grade teacher in Tacoma, Washington, and back at the cabin this summer for a little family vacation and wanted to sit down with Grandma Burtness and just kind of hear some backstory about her life. So, what do you have to share with us today, Grandma?
Well, there are many ways that I could have done this. I could have done it the story of my life. Could have started at the beginning, the middle, and the end. I could have done it that way, or I could have done what I've learned in 82 years. But then that wouldn't have been too interesting either. And what have I learned? I don't know. I don't know. So anyway, I thought I would start kind of in the middle. Actually, I think it's about 47, 8 years ago, and it was the year that we were going to go to India. So just a little bit of background. I had surgery in November of 1962. I was 34 years old. And so I had a tumor, and so they had to do surgery from the middle of my back all the way around. It was a tumor between my rib cage and my lungs. So they cut that out. It wasn't it wasn't malignant, so everything was fine. So I came home, but I couldn't lift anything. Peter was just 2 years old then. So my mother, I called her mother, but all the kids called her Mimi, came to take care of me and to take care of the children and to do, everything that needed to be done. And so while I'm recovering, probably, a month or two later, this call came from New York and said, Jim, how would you like to go to India next year? And he came in and said, Dolores, how would you like to go to India next year? I couldn't move, I couldn't get myself out of bed or anything. I said, I think that'd be just fine. And my mother just about went crazy. You're not going to go to India. You're not going to go to India. Anyway, we decided that we would go to India. Well, so what would we do with Peter in the meantime, who was just two? So Mimi took him out to Portland and took care of him for about 2 months or something. And then Grandma Burtness took the train out, picked up Peter, and brought him back to Minneapolis. And so all of us went down to the Milwaukee train depot to have breakfast and to pick up Peter. And then Grandma Burtness would go on the train to Chicago. And Peter sat there and he looked at us and he looked at us just for the longest time. And he thought, who are these strange people? And then all of a sudden, the light just went on in his face and he started smiling and laughing. And I thought,
No.
oh, he's remembering the people who he thought had abandoned
Yeah.
him and got rid of him. So then he turned 3 in April. And we left then. And I'm just going to give you just the broad itinerary of our trip. But it was really quite a trip. I was 34. Jim was just 34 too, maybe 35, with 4 little children. And we left St. Paul. I think we got Pan Am round the world trip. I can't remember how much it was, but we did get our airfare all the way around the world, and we got a house there to live in. And I think Jim might have gotten $3,000 a year or something like that.
Wow.
So we went to Honolulu first, and we were going to stay with friends for 5 days. We came into the airport, and John F. Kennedy was coming in at the same time. So it was just packed
Oh, I
with
can imagine,
people.
yeah.
Yeah. So our friend said, well, let's leave your luggage here, and we'll take you home, and we'll come back and get the luggage. So they came back to get the luggage, and one of the suitcases was missing. And it was the suitcase that had all of my clothes and all of Jim's clothes in it
Oh my gosh.
for 15 months. And the people said, oh no, it'll catch up with you. It'll catch up. But, in the meantime, take this money and buy a few clothes. I had my good dress on. Jim had his suit on. And of course, the kids all had white shirts. And I mean, you dressed up to go on the
Yeah,
airplane.
yeah.
Do you remember those days?
No.
No. That was a long time ago. So, actually, as a matter of fact, the suitcase never ever caught
Oh,
up
wow.
with us for 15 months. So we set off. Then we went to Tokyo, and we were there 4 or 5 days. Just had a marvelous time there, just kind of looking around and doing all of the touristy things there. And then from there, we went to Taiwan. Jim was speaking at a mission conference there. I think we were there about a week. So that was just a really great time, you know, to see everything there in Taiwan. And from there, we flew to Hong Kong, and we stayed with some friends there. And it just happened that there was a drought there, and there was no water.
Oh,
We
wow.
went to the reservoir. It was completely empty. And they turned on the water in our friend's apartment twice a week. And during those, for a couple of hours, you had to wash all of your laundry, you had to take your baths, you had to fill up every can that you had. And the people were just standing in line. They opened up the hydrants like once a day or something to get water to bring home, but they opened those up every day, but you had to wait in line for it, you know. So we thought about those people all year long, and of course then the rains came, filled the reservoir, and it just swept all of these shanty huts just down. It was just really a big flood. So then we flew from there to Calcutta. We came into Calcutta, and at night, and I just remember driving in there in the taxi to the hotel, and all of these people were standing up alongside of the buildings, just standing there. You know, I didn't have any idea what they were doing. And it had started raining. It was raining really hard. They were all the street people. They had all been sleeping on the streets. And so when it started to rain, then they went and leaned up against the buildings and just to try and keep a little bit dry. So from there, we flew down to Madras, and we were in Madras for about 9-10 months. And so everybody met us, the principal and the faculty and the students and everything. Well, I'm not going to really tell anything about Madras. That's kind of another story, the whole Madras year that we were there. But we left, this was in June, the end of June. Kids were all going to go to school, and Jim was teaching, and I was recovering from my surgery, actually. And so then at the end of March, then we left Madras. And so then it's kind of, what did we do from Madras on? Well, from Madras, we flew up to Calcutta, and we were going to go into Kathmandu, to Nepal. But Air India wouldn't fly in because it was too overcast and foggy. But Royal Nepal Airlines would fly in.
Oh, okay.
So we got
Fair
on
enough.
this airplane, and we flew between the Himalayas all the way into Kathmandu. We could see the mountains on both sides of us, but it was all overcast and foggy. And here we are, just kind of flying through the mountains.
Wow.
So the pilot said, "Do your kids want to come up into the cockpit?" So all 4 kids went up into the
very
cockpit.
cool.
And then the pilot is, smoking a cigarette, and he lifts up the window and he flicks his cigarette out the window and everything. I don't know what kind of a plane we were flying in, but that was really exciting. Well, Nepal was, of course, again, unbelievably interesting. The mission there, they didn't have any pastors or any religious kind of workers there, but they would only have like agriculturists or teachers or some kind of doctor or nurse or anything. So that was the mission to Nepal. So that was just kind of a really interesting time there, hearing all about all of the people that had tried to climb Mount Everest out of Kathmandu, and So then we left there. We went back to New Delhi for about a week. We went down to Agra, and we saw the Taj Mahal, and really had a good time there. And from New Delhi, we went to Tehran in Iran, and flew in. And Tehran was just a beautiful city, and the people were really friendly. We took a bus from Tehran down to Isfahan, saw this beautiful blue mosque, and we had friends down there in Isfahan. Anyway, we thought Iran was just a beautiful, beautiful country. We couldn't go to Iraq because there was too much uncertainty and unrest and everything there. So from Tehran, we flew to Beirut. And again, Beirut is right on the Mediterranean. It's an absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous city, just kind of right, a real beach city. And there we stayed in the YMCA, and there was a room right behind the pool hall with 6 bunk beds. So that's where we
nice.
stayed
Very nice.
for about 5 days. And had really, really just a marvelous time there. So then we went to the post office and said, we'd like to send this letter to Jerusalem. And he said, no, we don't know what you're talking about. We don't know where that is. You know. We said, oh, Jerusalem is just down a little bit farther down. You know, no, they just would not take any mail to go to
wow.
Jerusalem. But we did get an airplane. We flew from Tehran down to Jerusalem, and we're there again about 5-6 days. There was a student of Jim's that was there, Halver. I think he had a Volkswagen, and then there were the 6 of us, and so we were all in the little Volkswagen, and he was taking us all over to see everything, all over Jerusalem. He took us out to the Dead Sea and the Dead Sea caves, cool. And so there's a picture of Steve and Eric, you know, in Cave 4 where the Dead Sea, one of the important Dead Sea Scrolls was found. Now you can't even get close to it at all. And he took us to Jericho and all of the civilizations. I'm not sure how many. And so then that was Jerusalem. That was during Holy Week. Anyway, that was just a real good time. From Jerusalem, we went to Cairo. And for the first time, people were really, really unfriendly toward us, toward Americans, I think. But again, it was climbing the pyramids and looking at the Sphinx and going on a sailboat ride down the Nile River, and just really a great time. And from Cairo, we went to Athens. And Peter turned 4 years old on the airplane from Cairo to Athens. Then we went to Rome, and Eddie Egan was a friend of Jim's from grade school, and he was studying there at the Pontifical Institute, and he took us all around, did absolutely everything. He turned out to be the Archbishop of New York.
Oh, really?
Father Edward Egan, but then at the time he was Eddie Egan, and we really had a real good time. Well, then we were running out of miles if we were going to get home, so then we started taking the bus up to Hamburg, or the train, and then we took a boat up to Norway, and then we took a boat back to Copenhagen. And in Copenhagen we said, could we get a ferry or something and go into Berlin? They said, yeah. So they sold us a ticket, and we got on a ferry, and we went down to Warnemünde was the name of the town, and it was in East Germany. And so then we were on an East German train with all of these soldiers that were just coming back from Russia. And they were there, and we took the train into Berlin, and then we spent the summer in Berlin. And that was in 1964, and then we came home in the end of August to start school again. I think Peter was preschool that year. Deb was probably in first grade. Eric was, I don't know, probably in 4th or 5th or something. So that was a big year in the life.
Sounds that way.
It sounds that way. It
Very
was
cool.
When I start, thinking about where we actually were. It was kind of unbelievable. But there are many, many other things.
Oh, yes.
Many things to tell.
Many more things. Well, thank you very much for sharing that, Grandma. That was very interesting.
Oh,
Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Matthew.
No problem.
Oh.